The sun hung low over Fort Resolute, burning the horizon with gold and red streaks that set the dusty training grounds aglow. A wind gusted through the camp, lifting sand and dry leaves, carrying with it the sharp tang of gunpowder and sweat. Across the wide open expanse, a line of candidates stretched, shoulder to shoulder. Marines, Rangers, SEAL hopefuls, and a few Air Force operatives all wore the hardened, alert look of men and women trained to be dangerous. The kind of look that told the world, "Do not underestimate me." Yet among them, one figure drew attention for an entirely different reason. She was smaller than most, slight, lean, her build more wiry than muscular, but her presence was magnetic, drawing eyes without demanding them. A dark gray hoodie was pulled low over her head, casting a shadow across her face. Even without seeing her features, something about the way she stood, a mix of stillness and readiness, made the other candidates uneasy. And then there was the tattoo. Peeking from beneath her sleeve, ink black on pale skin, was a raven perched on a broken branch. To some, it was a strange flourish, artistic, perhaps symbolic of rebellion or poetry. To others, it was an easy target for ridicule. "Hey, hood girl," a Marine corporal barked, voice sharp with mockery. "Nice bird tattoo. What is that, team emo?" A few others chuckled, nudging each other. She didn't react. Another candidate leaned closer, smirking. "Let me guess, it's supposed to be intimidating, right? Beware the quiet ones. Or maybe you just drew it in marker in art class." A ripple of laughter went down the line. Her hands rested calmly at her sides. She didn't flinch, she didn't raise her eyes, she just existed unshaken. Across the yard, a two-story administration building cast a long shadow. From the window, Commander Jonathan Hale watched, binoculars resting at his chest. Hale was a SEAL officer with 2 combat deployments as a sniper team lead under his belt, decorated with awards most candidates had only read about. Broad-shouldered, hair slightly gray at the temples, with eyes that had witnessed too much, Hale had seen countless new recruits and candidates. Most tried to assert themselves with noise. Some with bravado, others with fear. But the quiet ones, the ones who endured mockery without a twitch, those were the ones worth nodding. The line shifted, murmurs spreading like wildfire. No one recognized her. No branch insignias marked her sleeves. She had arrived silently, as if materializing from the wind itself. The raven tattoo was what lit the fire in the candidates' minds, that and her composure. "You think she can even handle the ruck march?" someone muttered. "Who let her in here?" another replied. The wind lifted again, stirring her hood slightly. Finally, Hale walked toward the line. His presence was commanding but calm. The candidates stiffened instinctively. Hale's reputation preceded him, grueling field tests, impossible standards, and an intuition for identifying danger and talent alike. "Welcome to Advanced Joint Marksmanship Qualification," Hale's voice rang across the yard, cutting through the chatter. "If you think you're good, you're not. If you think you're elite, you're wrong. If you think you're ready," he let his gaze sweep over the group. "We'll see." Eyes forward, spine stiff, breathing measured. Then his eyes locked on her. The hooded girl, small, quiet, unnervingly still, yet radiating a presence he couldn't ignore. "Candidate," he said, walking closer. His voice was calm but carried authority that made others shift in their boots. "What's your name?" For the first time, her voice broke the silence. Calm, even professional. "Clarissa Ward, sir." The men glanced at each other. Unknown name, unknown origin, perfect. Hale nodded, removed the hood. The line seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, deliberately, Clarissa lifted the hood. Her gray eyes met Hale's directly, unflinching. Calm, measured, almost predatory in their focus. The tattoo was fully revealed. It was no ordinary raven. Hale's heart skipped. He had seen such insignias only in classified contexts, in files that were never supposed to be shared outside the highest levels of operations. This was a mark reserved for an elite unit, a team whose very existence was whispered about in briefings and highly restricted field reports. Laughter from the line died. The candidate's eyes widened, uncertainty creeping in. A few swallowed hard. The corporal who had mocked her stepped back instinctively. The others didn't know why, but instinct told them they had just crossed into dangerous territory. Hale's jaw tightened. Ward, previous assignment. She answered, voice steady, emotionless. Sir, that's need to know. A shiver went through the group. No one laughed. No one moved. The wind shifted, carrying the tension across the yard. Even Hale took a half step back internally, calculating. She was calm. She was small. And yet, the gravity of her presence pulled him in like a magnet. The first exercise of the day, a live fire evaluation, began. Candidates moved toward their positions, but the mockery from before had vanished entirely. Whispers passed quietly between men and women who suddenly realized the girl they judged as fragile might actually be more dangerous than any of them. Hale studied her, every micro-expression, every slight shift of weight, every breath. She moved deliberately, subtly, ready for anything. He realized something with chilling clarity. She was not here to learn. She was here to observe, to test, and if necessary, to execute. The wind kicked up, dust swirling around her boots. She adjusted her pack, hood sliding partially back, revealing the tattoo once more. Hale's instincts screamed. He had seen elite candidates before. He had seen cocky, brash, and talented operators. But this quiet girl with the raven tattoo carried an experience, a history, and a precision that defied explanation. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretched. The candidates lined up to begin the exercise, unaware of what they had really stepped into. Hale's eyes never left her. The air was electric, thick with anticipation. Because by the end of today, someone would find out why Clarissa Ward had the raven tattoo, and why Commander Hale had suddenly gone silent. The first shot was about to ring out. And Hale already knew. This day would change everything. The first shots rang out across Fort Resolute's training grounds, sharp and startling, echoing off distant hills and cutting through the late afternoon haze. Candidates moved into positions, rifles raised, muscles tense, eyes scanning every target marker, every shadow. The air smelled of hot gunpowder and dust, thick and heavy, settling in the throats of those unaccustomed to long-range live fire. Clarissa Ward moved differently. While others fumbled with grips, adjusted sights, and cursed under their breath, she held herself with an eerie calm. Her gray eyes scanned the field, measuring distance, wind, trajectory. Her hands, lithe and steady, positioned the rifle with deliberate precision, almost as if the weapon were an extension of her body. Each motion was clean, fluid, economical. No wasted movement, no hesitation. The candidates around her shifted nervously, stealing glances. Some tried to whisper, but the sound of her breathing, steady and unhurried, seemed to command the space around her. Even the instructors noticed the change. "Who's that?" muttered a Marine, stepping back from his firing lane. "She's different, watch her." The SEAL candidate who had mocked her the day before clenched his jaw. "I don't care how small she is, she's precise. Way too precise for a rookie." Clarissa's rifle rose, sights aligning perfectly with a distant steel target. The wind picked up, rattling the range markers, and her finger eased on the trigger. One shot, center mass. Perfect. The steel target rang sharply, spinning slightly on its mount. Another shot, bullseye. The SEAL candidate's smirk faltered. The Marine whispering nearby sucked in a breath. "She's hitting every target, every single one." Clarissa didn't glance up. She didn't react to the whispers. She moved from position to position with quiet purpose, every movement precise, calculated, deliberate. She had been here before. Not in a classroom, not in a simulated exercise, but in environments far more dangerous, where one misstep meant death. Commander Hale, standing slightly apart, studied her. His heart raced with a mixture of curiosity and unease. The insignia, The raven tattoo was more than symbolic. It marked her as a sniper, elite beyond typical SEAL standards, someone trained for covert operations the public would never hear about. And she wasn't here by accident. Previous assignment, he muttered under his breath. She didn't answer, not yet. Her shots continued. The distant steel targets rang again and again, precise, controlled. Other candidates struggled to hit even half the targets, sweat dripping down their faces, muscles shaking. One candidate cursed under his breath, adjusting his aim again and again, but each time his shots veered slightly off, as though the wind itself mocked him. Meanwhile, Clarissa's hood remained half up, partially shielding her face, casting shadows over her high cheekbones and steely eyes. The raven tattoo peeked from under her sleeve with each movement, dark and striking against pale skin. The mark wasn't decorative. It was a symbol of lethality, a warning the candidates were only beginning to perceive. Whispers spread among the line. "Did you see that? She's not just good, she's like she's predicting the targets." "Who is she?" I don't even know, some kind of elite team." Hale's eyes narrowed. He had seen operators with similar skill, but Clarissa's presence carried something more. A calmness under fire. A patience that suggested danger wasn't something she feared, it was something she understood instinctively. And instinct in her line of work wasn't learned overnight, it was earned. The targets rotated, forcing candidates to shift rapidly from one point to another. Most stumbled, adjusting sights, breathing unevenly, panic creeping into their movements. Clarissa, however, flowed from one shot to the next seamlessly. Her head barely moved, her breathing even, her hands steady. It was almost hypnotic. Then came the last target, farthest from her position, barely visible in the slanting sunlight. Candidates squinted, struggling to find it. Hale saw her pause for a fraction of a second, calculating. The faintest flicker of a smile touched her lips, almost imperceptible. She had seen this before. She knew exactly where the target would move in the briefest window of wind, how it would react, where the bullet would land. Her finger squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked, splitting the air. The steel target spun violently on its mount, ringing perfectly. A murmur ran through the line. Some candidates stepped back, unnerved. A few looked at each other in disbelief. The SEAL candidate who had mocked her couldn't hide his astonishment. How did she? He trailed off, speechless. Clarissa lowered the rifle slowly, eyes sweeping across the candidates as if measuring their reactions. There was no arrogance, no pride, only quiet focus. Hale's mind raced. He realized she wasn't here to compete with the other candidates. She wasn't here to prove herself. She was here for a purpose, and it was not their understanding that mattered, it was hers. One candidate, younger than the rest, finally spoke, voice trembling slightly. She's like a ghost. She doesn't even look real." Hale's jaw tightened. The forested terrain beyond the range hinted at exercises yet to come. He had seen many talented marksmen, but this quiet, hooded girl with the raven tattoo, she wasn't just talented. She was a weapon in human form, measured and precise, capable of reading situations before they even unfolded. A faint wind tugged at her hoodie again. She adjusted it with a single smooth movement. The tattoo caught the light, dark ink striking and stark. Hale's stomach tightened. If she had brought this level of experience to a standard candidate training exercise, what had she been doing before she arrived here? The other candidates fumbled with their rifles, adjusting sights, mumbling under their breaths. They tried to compete, to regain composure, but the weight of her presence hung over them, suffocating. Even the instructors noticed the difference. They had never seen such a commanding presence in a candidate so young, so quiet. Hale's mind raced, cataloging possibilities. Was she a prodigy, an undercover operative? Had she been assigned by some secret task force he hadn't been briefed on? Questions mounted, but answers remained elusive. She was calm, silent, unflinching, the kind of operative who could slip into a dangerous situation and leave it changed, irrevocably. The last shot echoed across the yard. Silence followed, heavy and profound. Candidates lowered their rifles slowly, unwilling to meet her eyes. Hale finally stepped closer, voice measured but tinged with caution. "Ward," he said, "report previous assignment." She met his gaze evenly, gray eyes unblinking. "Sir, that's need to know." Hale froze. A ripple of tension passed through the candidates. None dared interrupt. Clarissa's quiet defiance, her calm control, and the striking raven tattoo combined to create an aura of something dangerous, something real. The wind picked up again, carrying dust and whispers across the field. Hale realized the truth. This girl was more than a candidate. She was a living weapon, trained for missions that could change the course of operations, yet standing here quietly among them like an unassuming shadow. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the yard in streaks of gold and orange, Hale understood that the day had already changed. The exercises that followed would no longer be routine. They would test more than skill. They would test instincts, trust, and the candidate's ability to survive under a shadow far larger than themselves. Clarissa adjusted her hood back, allowing the tattoo to catch the fading sunlight again. It was a silent warning, a symbol of experience and danger. The candidates would not mock her again. Not today. Because she wasn't just here to learn. She was here to watch, to test, and if necessary to execute. Hale's hand itched toward his sidearm. Not in readiness but instinctively. For the first time in years he felt uncertain. This wasn't training. This was reconnaissance. And she had just revealed herself. The forest beyond the range whispered with possibility. Something told Hale that this quiet girl with the raven tattoo would change everything about the training, the candidates, and possibly the entire command structure before the sun even set. The forest beyond Fort Resolute stretched like a living labyrinth. Towering pines and dense underbrush swallowed sunlight, casting mottled shadows across the ground. Candidates moved cautiously, boots crunching on dead leaves, rifles at the ready. Sweat trickled down their temples despite the cool shade. Every sound, the snapping of a twig, the rustle of a leaf, seemed amplified, triggering nerves already frayed from the morning's live fire exercise. Clarissa Ward moved differently. She didn't run. She didn't dash. She glided. Her steps were silent, deliberate, measured, each footfall placing her where the others wouldn't notice. Her eyes scanned constantly, flicking from shadow to shadow, analyzing, calculating, predicting. Every muscle in her body was coiled, ready yet relaxed. It was almost imperceptible how one person could radiate control and danger simultaneously, but Hale noticed. He had seen hundreds of candidates in forested exercises. Most moved like they were battling invisible ghosts, jerky and anxious. Clarissa moved like a predator, blending into the terrain, a shadow among shadows. Hale's pulse quickened, not with fear but with a professional recognition of pure skill. The group had been tasked with a simulated ambush scenario. Targets, both stationary and moving, had been scattered across the training area. Candidates were expected to maneuver silently, communicate minimally, and engage targets with precision. Most were tense, rushing, nervous. Each misstep amplified the possibility of failure. Clarissa, however, moved methodically. She crouched behind a fallen log, her rifle angled, eyes calculating angles, wind, distance. The raven tattoo peeked from beneath her sleeve as she adjusted her grip. Hale's heart skipped. That insignia wasn't just symbolic, it was operational. A warning, a marker. It meant she had survived, thrived, and excelled in environments far more hostile than this simulated forest. One of the SEAL candidates, still reeling from her accuracy on the range, whispered to a Marine next to him, "How is she like, predicting everything?" Another candidate tried to shrug it off, but the tension was palpable. Clarissa didn't just move, she anticipated. She froze. The others didn't notice it immediately, but Hale did. A branch snapped behind her, soft, almost inaudible, but to her it was a signal. She turned slightly, eyes narrowing, assessing. The movement was subtle, a shadow among shadows. Her finger brushed the trigger with precision, but she didn't fire immediately. Patience was a weapon she wielded expertly. Seconds later, a target popped into view, painted metal, moving along a preset track. Without hesitation, Clarissa's shot rang out. The target spun, hitting the mark dead center. The group froze. Another target appeared, another shot, again flawless. Each sound echoed through the forest, punctuating the candidates' growing awe and fear. Hale whispered under his breath, "She's not just skilled, she's predictive." The mockery of the morning was gone. The bravado drained from their movements. They were acutely aware of the fact that the quiet, hooded girl wasn't just another candidate. She was a force. Clarissa shifted, scanning the forest beyond the immediate targets. Her movements were smooth, natural, precise. She ducked behind a low-hanging branch, barely making a sound, then adjusted her scope to a distant hillock. Hale could see the calculation in her eyes, the deliberate measure of her breathing, the awareness of wind direction, distance, and potential trajectories. "God," muttered one Marine voice low, she's a ghost." The SEAL candidate who had mocked her that morning clenched his jaw, fists tightening. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted under his breath. Clarissa paused. A sudden noise, a snapping twig from somewhere deeper in the forest, alerted her. She dropped to one knee, scanning, analyzing. Her breathing was calm, controlled, almost hypnotic. Hale watched, fascinated. Every instinct screamed. This was a professional, trained in ways that far exceeded even the highest candidate standards. She moved forward, crouching low, rifle poised. The forest seemed to bend around her, each shadow and rustle acknowledged and catalogued in her mind. Her targets, simulated, yes, but she treated them as real threats, fell with a rhythm that was almost musical. Each shot was deliberate, precise. A few candidates began to stumble over routes, miscalculate distances, or misjudge angles. Clarissa's presence was magnetic and unsettling. They could feel it, even if they didn't understand why. The quiet one had become the center of their universe in this field exercise. Hale's jaw tightened. He approached the candidates, voice low but authoritative. "Do not underestimate her," he warned. "She is not just another candidate. Pay attention. Learn, follow, do not interfere." The forest seemed alive. Even the birds and rustling leaves carried a weight of anticipation. Clarissa moved toward the next target zone, hood pushed back fully, raven tattoo fully visible now. Hale noticed the subtle flexing of her hands, the fluidity of her motions, the efficiency of her stalking movements. She crouched behind a fallen log, peering through a gap in the foliage. She aligned her shot. The target, a moving dummy in camouflage, emerged just long enough. A single squeeze of her finger and it was down. Perfect. The candidates whispered among themselves, awestruck. One Marine muttered, "She's unreal." Another swallowed hard, trying to hide his trembling. Even the instructors felt a shift. Hale's mind raced. This was not a training exercise anymore. It was an evaluation of instincts, teamwork, and survival, and she was leading it silently. Then a loud snap echoed, too loud to be part of the scenario. One of the candidates yelped as a branch snapped underfoot. Clarissa's eyes flicked toward it instantly. Hale froze. She didn't panic, she didn't shout, she didn't flinch. She moved swiftly, silently, a shadow among shadows. She reached the candidate crouched and whispered instructions with clarity and authority. "Stay low, follow my lead, don't make noise." The candidate nodded, eyes wide, trembling slightly. Clarissa's hand adjusted his stance, subtly correcting him. Hale observed, pulse racing. This wasn't teaching, this was field leadership under pressure. Clarissa's gray eyes scanned the forest, darting to every possible movement, every glimmer of threat. Her hooded form, her calm breathing, and the raven tattoo made her look almost otherworldly, a specter moving among mere mortals. She continued forward, leading silently, striking targets with deadly precision. Hale realized the candidates, Mockery from the morning had been replaced by fear, respect, and awe. Every step she took demonstrated that she was not here to compete with them. She was here to surpass, lead, and dominate. The forest, the range, and every hidden corner seemed to bend to her presence. Every rustle, every shadow, every whispered sound carried weight. She was patient, calculating, lethal. And Hale knew that when this exercise ended, the others would never forget her, not just for her skill, but for the quiet, unnerving authority she carried with her. And the raven tattoo, it was more than symbolic. It was a warning, a reminder that beneath the calm exterior of this small, wiry girl lay a professional capable of lethal precision, intelligence, and foresight. Hale swallowed hard. The realization struck him with a cold clarity. Clarissa Ward was no ordinary candidate. She was something else entirely, a shadow, a predator, and a weapon in human form. The sun began its descent, casting longer shadows through the forest. Clarissa paused briefly, adjusting her hood and scanning the area. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The forest, the candidates, and Hale himself knew that she was always 2 steps ahead. And somewhere deep in Hale's mind, a warning echoed. This quiet girl with the raven tattoo would not only redefine the day's exercises, she would redefine everything that followed. The forest had transformed. Shadows stretched long beneath the towering pines, and the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves filled the air. The morning sun was gone, replaced by a dim, shifting light that made every movement uncertain. Candidates, already tense from the live fire range, now faced a different kind of challenge, a simulated ambush in dense terrain. Clarissa Ward moved at the edge of the formation, silent as a whisper. Hale watched from a small rise, binoculars pressed to his eyes, noting her every movement. She was crouched low, scanning the surroundings, ears attuned to every subtle sound, the rustle of leaves, a distant branch cracking, the faint hiss of wind through the pines. Her rifle, cradled in perfect alignment, seemed less a weapon than an extension of herself. The candidates fumbled forward, boots crunching over dead leaves, rifles raised, voices low as they attempted to communicate. Some spoke too loudly, others moved too quickly. Their nervous energy made them easy to detect. Clarissa, by contrast, glided through the underbrush, a shadow among shadows, never rushing, always deliberate. Hale's gaze narrowed. She wasn't just stealthy, she was predictive. She seemed to anticipate every movement of the simulated enemies, every potential hazard. It wasn't talent alone, it was experience, honed over years that the other candidates could never imagine. A snapping branch alerted her. She froze, muscles coiled. Her gray eyes scanned the darkness between the trees. There, a flash of movement, a target running along a pre-planned path. She raised her rifle, adjusted the scope with the ease of someone born to it, and fired. The target dropped with mechanical precision. No hesitation, no wasted motion, just pure, lethal efficiency. The candidates nearby froze, watching her work with disbelief. The Marine who had whispered before swallowed hard, voice trembling. She sees everything before it happens. The SEAL candidate who had mocked her smiled briefly at first, then realized it wasn't amusement, it was awe and fear. His jaw tightened. She's unreal, he muttered under his breath. Clarissa moved again, silent, fluid, every step calculated. She ducked beneath a low branch, keeping her silhouette hidden, eyes sweeping constantly. Hale noticed how she adjusted her movements based on the terrain. Fallen logs, rocks, small depressions in the forest floor. She used them to her advantage, leveraging cover with the precision of someone who had lived countless days in hostile environments. Then came the first test of the ambush. Simulated enemy fire erupted from multiple directions. Candidates panicked, shouting orders, firing haphazardly. Clarissa didn't flinch. She shifted positions, crouched low, and returned fire with measured accuracy, eliminating the moving targets methodically. Each shot rang through the forest, unnerving her peers. Hale's jaw tightened. Every operator he had trained in his career had moments of hesitation. Clarissa had none. She didn't just engage the targets, she controlled the space, dictating the pace, manipulating the environment to her advantage. One candidate, a young Marine who had been fidgeting all morning, stumbled over a root. Another simulated threat appeared, a decoy moving to flank him. Clarissa's eyes flicked to the movement before anyone else noticed it. She was there in an instant, silent, precise, positioning herself to intercept. She whispered instructions to the Marine. "Stay low, move behind me, keep your head down." He obeyed, almost afraid to breathe. Clarissa's calm authority and fluid movements exuded a power that went beyond training. She wasn't just a shooter, she was a leader, a predator, and a shield, all in one. Hale felt a chill run down his spine. This was not training anymore. This was an exhibition of skill, control, and lethality. Clarissa's movements were flawless, yet she revealed nothing. There was no arrogance, no display of power, only absolute focus. The ambush continued. Simulated enemy fire intensified, targets moved unpredictably. Most candidates were scrambling, shouting, making mistakes. Clarissa moved as if the forest were an extension of herself. Each shot she fired was precise, eliminating threats while keeping her position concealed. Her hood, pushed back slightly, revealed the raven tattoo in stark contrast against her skin, a symbol of a history and skill level that none of the other candidates could comprehend. At one point, a target appeared directly in the line of another candidate. He froze, unsure of how to approach it. Clarissa's hand gently guided his arm, adjusting his aim. "Steady, wait for the window, now." The shot was perfect. The target dropped and the candidate's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and admiration crossing his face. Hale watched, realizing that every move she made was teaching, even if she didn't speak. Her calm efficiency and unspoken authority forced the other candidates to rethink their own approach. They were no longer competing with her, they were learning to survive under her shadow. The forest seemed to respond to her presence. Every rustle, every shifting leaf, every bird's call was catalogued and processed by her mind. She was always aware of angles, distances, and timing. The forest, normally chaotic for novices, was predictable for her. Suddenly, a loud snap of a branch echoed from deeper in the woods. Candidates froze, panic spreading like wildfire. Clarissa's gray eyes flicked to the sound instantly. She crouched, moving like liquid through the underbrush. Hale's pulse quickened as he realized she was moving toward the source. She reached the point of disturbance. A fellow candidate had tripped over a hidden obstacle. Without hesitation, she crouched beside him, assessing quickly. "Move carefully. Follow my lead," she whispered. The candidate nodded, fear evident in his wide eyes. She guided him silently through the forest, leading him back into cover without alerting any of the simulated enemies. Hale exhaled slowly. This was not leadership by loud orders or domination. This was leadership by example, precision, and calm authority. Clarissa Ward didn't just survive the forest, she commanded it. The ambush exercise reached its climax. Simulated fire intensified, threats appeared from unexpected angles, and the candidates were pushed to their limits. Clarissa anticipated every move, neutralizing targets, guiding others, and maintaining her own stealth. She was always 2 steps ahead, moving with the confidence of someone who had been in far more dangerous situations than this simulated exercise could replicate. The sun dipped further, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The candidates, exhausted and shaken, began to realize the truth. The quiet girl with the raven tattoo was no ordinary candidate. She was something else entirely, an operator with experience, skill, and instincts that defied understanding. Hale's eyes never left her. For the first time in years, he felt uncertainty. He realized that the morning's mockery had been a mistake, not a mistake by her, but by the men who thought appearances mattered. The raven tattoo, the quiet demeanor, the slight frame, all deceptive. Beneath it lay precision, experience, and lethal control. As the exercise concluded, Clarissa moved back to a vantage point, hood partially pushed back, tattoo visible. She scanned the forest, gray eyes calm and calculating, breathing measured, posture relaxed yet ready. Hale approached, voice low, tone tinged with both awe and caution. "You aren't here to learn." She turned slightly, eyes meeting his without emotion. "No, sir, I'm here to ensure survival." Hale swallowed. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if acknowledging the power she carried. Every rustle, every shadow, every whispered sound in the trees hinted at danger, but none of it seemed to faze her. Clarissa Ward, the quiet girl once mocked for her tattoo, had transformed the forest into her domain. Every candidate had learned a hard lesson. Appearances deceive, and the quietest presence can be the deadliest. Hale's hand instinctively brushed the strap of his sidearm. Not for him, not yet, but for the understanding that this candidate could redefine every expectation in ways he had never imagined. The forest echoed with tension, anticipation, and the unspoken question that now hung in the air. Who was she, really, and what missions lay behind those gray eyes? The shadows seemed to lean closer, waiting for the answer. By mid-afternoon, the forest had grown darker, the canopy thickening to block the sun almost completely. A mist began rising from the ground, curling around tree trunks, hugging the underbrush and carrying the damp scent of soil and pine. Candidates, exhausted from the morning's live-fire range and the earlier ambush simulation, moved slowly, nervously, every rustle amplified in their minds. Yet Clarissa Ward moved with the same calm grace she had displayed since arriving, her every step measured, silent, precise. Hale followed from a distance, binoculars pressed to his eyes, noting every motion. The girl was no longer just a candidate. She had become the focal point of the exercise. The others seemed to orbit her presence, whether they wanted to or not. The training scenario had shifted. Now a sudden enemy incursion had been triggered, a simulated strike team moving through the forest with advanced tactics. The candidates were ordered to move forward, locate targets, and neutralize them. Most were panicked, voices strained, rifles jerking as they tried to maintain focus. But Clarissa, she moved like a shadow, every movement calculated, every breath timed. Then it happened. A target, a moving simulation operative, emerged from behind a tree several hundred meters away. Clarissa raised her rifle, fingers precise on the trigger, eyes locked on the target. The shot rang out. The target collapsed exactly where she intended. Hale froze, not because she had hit the target, he had expected that, but because of how she moved afterward. She didn't just shoot and move. She evaluated, adjusted, repositioned, and anticipated the next threat before it appeared. Her gray eyes scanned the forest with a depth of understanding that went beyond training. It was instinct, honed over countless real-world operations. A whisper spread among the nearby candidates. She's like she's seen this before, real combat. Another muttered, barely audibly, "There's no way she's just a trainee." Then Clarissa did something that shocked even Hale. A new threat appeared, another moving target flanking from a blind angle. Instead of taking a direct shot, she moved stealthily, positioning herself perfectly behind cover. The shot she took eliminated the target without exposing herself. The precision, patience, and tactical awareness were beyond anything Hale had witnessed in a candidate. The SEAL candidate who had mocked her earlier finally spoke under his breath, a mix of awe and disbelief. She's not supposed to be here. Nobody moves like that at this level." Clarissa didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her presence communicated the reality. She was deadly and she was experienced. Hale approached closer, eyes narrowed. The raven tattoo on her forearm caught the dim light of the forest, ink black and stark against her pale skin. He froze. That insignia was not decorative. It wasn't something an ordinary candidate would have. It belonged to an elite, classified sniper unit, a team known to operate in covert missions the public never heard of, missions that were declassified only decades later. And now, she was here in front of him in full display. His voice came out low, controlled, though his mind raced. Ward, previous assignment. Her eyes met his, calm and steady, devoid of fear, devoid of unnecessary explanation. "Sir, that's need to know," she replied evenly. The weight of her words hit the candidates like a physical blow. Even the instructors paused, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Whispers spread like wildfire. "She's from a covert unit," muttered a Marine, eyes wide. "No way, that tattoo, that's—" He swallowed hard. Hale's pulse quickened. He had always been aware of the existence of that unit, but had never trained with one of its members in the field. Their presence in standard training was rare and highly classified. And here she was, not only present but excelling, exceeding every expectation, and making the other candidates look like amateurs. Clarissa moved again, silent as a shadow. She repositioned herself, eyes scanning every angle. The forest seemed to bend to her awareness. Every sound, every rustle, every movement was catalogued instantly. She didn't just react, she predicted. A sudden rustle behind a dense bush alerted her to a new target, one that had been intended to surprise the candidates. Without hesitation, she fired. The target went down before anyone else had even recognized it. A few candidates gawked, frozen in awe. She's not training. She's performing an actual operation," whispered a young Marine. Hale swallowed. His jaw tightened. It was becoming painfully clear that this exercise was no longer a fair comparison. Clarissa Ward wasn't here to compete with the other candidates. She wasn't here to be measured. She was here to demonstrate control, precision, and lethal efficiency. And in doing so, she had exposed the gap between ordinary trainees and someone who had been forged in real-world conflict. The sun dipped further, filtered through the dense canopy, casting long, dramatic shadows. The forest seemed alive with suspense. Clarissa crouched behind a fallen log, gray eyes scanning, calculating. Hale could feel the tension radiating from her. She wasn't moving with arrogance or pride. Her calm control exuded a quiet, terrifying authority. Another simulated threat emerged. This one was closer, hidden behind a tree line. Clarissa didn't hesitate. She adjusted her scope with delicate precision, calculated wind and distance in a split second, and fired. Another perfect hit. Candidates whispered among themselves. Fear and awe mingled with confusion. They had come here thinking they would demonstrate their own skill. Instead, they were learning from someone whose experience far surpassed theirs. Hale stepped forward slightly, hand brushing the strap of his sidearm, though instinct told him it wasn't for him. It was for understanding the level of skill standing before him. Clarissa lowered her rifle for a moment, eyes sweeping the forest, gray and unreadable. Her hood was pushed back, allowing the raven tattoo to fully reveal itself. A symbol of experience, skill, and a history the candidates could only guess at. Hale finally spoke, voice low but commanding, carrying both awe and caution. "You're extraordinary." Clarissa nodded subtly, expression calm. "Sir, objectives met, threats neutralized, team status secured." The other candidates exchanged glances, wide-eyed and silent. The mockery of the morning had been erased entirely. The girl who had been laughed at, mocked for her tattoo, and dismissed as fragile was now the undeniable center of attention, a symbol of lethal precision and calm authority. Hale exhaled slowly. The weight of her presence was heavy, almost tangible. Clarissa had not only completed the simulated ambush flawlessly, she had demonstrated leadership, tactical foresight, and an almost preternatural understanding of the environment. The forest, alive with rustling leaves and shifting shadows, seemed to hold its breath. Every candidate had learned a lesson, unspoken but profound. Appearances deceive. The quietest, smallest figure might carry the deadliest power. Hale's mind raced, cataloging what he knew. She was calm under pressure. Her shooting was flawless and predictive. Her tactical movement was beyond advanced training. The raven tattoo was classified, a mark of an elite sniper unit. And the most chilling realization of all, She was not here to impress, to learn, or to compete. She was here to command, dominate, and survive. Clarissa adjusted her hood, the tattoo catching the dim sunlight, casting sharp, inky shadows across her forearm. The forest echoed with tension, and every candidate, every observer, understood one simple truth. They were in the presence of someone far beyond ordinary measures. Hale's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Ward, who sent you?" She didn't answer. She simply scanned the forest again, poised, alert, lethal. The question hung in the air, unanswered, and that silence was more powerful than any words. Because in that silence, Hale, the SEAL commander, realized a terrifying fact. He had no idea what missions, what operations, or what dangers Clarissa Ward had already survived. And he had no idea what she was capable of next. The forest seemed to lean closer, shadows lengthening, waiting for the next move. Clarissa Ward, the quiet girl with the raven tattoo, had not only completed the exercise, she had rewritten the rules. The question on everyone's mind was simple and terrifying. Who was she really? The forest had grown darker still, shadows stretching like living fingers across the ground. The mist thickened, curling around tree trunks, clinging to leaves, and clinging to every candidate like a damp cloak. The air was heavy with tension, carrying the faint metallic scent of spent rounds and earth disturbed by movement. Clarissa Ward moved with the same deadly calm she had maintained since arriving. Her gray eyes scanned every inch of the forest, reading the environment with the precision of a predator who had hunted this terrain countless times. Each footstep was deliberate, controlled, nearly soundless. Even Hale, watching from a ridge, noted how she seemed to melt into the environment rather than move through it. The latest exercise had introduced a twist, an unexpected equipment malfunction. Each candidate had been issued live rounds and advanced optics, but a sudden simulated jam had disabled several rifles in the line, creating chaos. Panic spread like wildfire. Candidates fumbled, cursed, and struggled to correct their equipment, some exposing themselves to potential enemy fire. Clarissa didn't hesitate. Her rifle was fully operational, movements fluid, her eyes scanning the forest for both threats and opportunities. One candidate froze, fumbling with a jammed weapon, exposed to a simulated target approaching from a concealed angle. Clarissa moved instantly, silent, precise. Within seconds, she was at his side, correcting his stance, guiding his hand, and neutralizing the threat before he could react. The Marine candidate who had mocked her early in the week whispered, awestruck, "She's untouchable." A sudden crack echoed through the forest, a simulated explosion meant to simulate a trap. Candidates ducked instinctively. Panic surged. Shouts rang out, rifles misfiring, adrenaline overtaking discipline. But Clarissa, she remained unshaken, crouched low behind a fallen log, assessing the situation, calculating trajectories, and anticipating threats. Hale's pulse quickened. He had seen experienced operators panic under far less pressure, but Clarissa maintained an almost supernatural calm. Every movement was intentional. Every decision was precise. Every command, whether spoken or unspoken, carried authority that the others could not ignore. Then another malfunction. A target unexpectedly advanced from the forest edge, flanking the candidates. Most panicked, firing haphazardly. Clarissa, eyes narrowing, raised her rifle and fired 2 precise rounds, neutralizing the target. She didn't move immediately after. Instead, she scanned, adjusted, and repositioned herself silently. Her gray eyes caught every subtle shift in the shadows, every hint of movement, every potential danger. One young Marine candidate, trembling, whispered, "How does she see everything?" Another replied, voice shaking, She's not human, she can't be, there's no way." Clarissa's hand adjusted her scope slightly, revealing a brief glimpse of the raven tattoo on her forearm, a stark black mark that seemed to absorb the dim forest light. Hale felt a chill. That insignia marked someone who had survived the kind of missions most soldiers only read about in classified files. And now she was here, not just surviving but dominating the exercise. Suddenly, a simulated firefight erupted nearby, louder than before, closer, more chaotic. Candidates were scattering, shouting, fumbling. Clarissa didn't panic. She rose slightly, eyes locked on the advancing threat. One smooth motion, she fired. Target down. Another target, a decoy moving erratically, down again. Her breathing remained steady, calm, almost hypnotic. Hale's mind raced. This was no longer a candidate performing exercises. This was an operator in the field, executing flawlessly under pressure that would have shattered most trained soldiers. Then came the emergency scenario. A simulated grenade, mechanical, designed to test reflexes, rolled into the clearing where several candidates had frozen in panic. Clarissa's eyes widened just slightly, the briefest twitch. She calculated, moved faster than thought possible, and grabbed the device, tossing it safely aside in one fluid motion. The other candidates gasped. She's insane," one muttered. "That's impossible. Nobody reacts that fast." Hale stepped closer, binoculars lowering, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed that Clarissa Ward was no ordinary candidate. The raven tattoo was more than a symbol. It was a warning, a mark of lethal training, elite operations, and secrets that most would never comprehend. Clarissa crouched again, scanning the terrain. Her gray eyes flicked to a small group of panicked candidates, then to a simulated enemy moving behind the cover of the forest. She raised her rifle again, fired once, then another shot. Perfect precision. The panic around her seemed to melt as she moved through the chaos like a shadow, guiding, protecting, neutralizing threats with unspoken authority. Hale whispered under his breath, "She's not just skilled, she's lethal and calm in a way I've never seen." A sudden rustle to her right made the candidates flinch, but not her. Clarissa tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing, reading the movement. Another simulated enemy advanced, attempting to ambush. Clarissa dropped to one knee, aimed, and fired. The target dropped dead before it could even react. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Even the instructors were silent, observing her, understanding that the day had escalated beyond normal training. Clarissa's hood was slightly pulled back, the raven tattoo stark and commanding. Her gray eyes scanned the forest continuously, assessing threats, calculating distances, and controlling her own breathing. Every movement communicated skill, authority, and experience beyond what anyone present could fully comprehend. Then came the final test of the exercise, the simulated command and extraction scenario. Candidates were required to maneuver through a densely wooded area, neutralize threats, and extract a high-value target, a weighted dummy, without alerting enemy positions. Most candidates stumbled, froze, or panicked under the pressure. Clarissa moved methodically, leading the group, covering their movements, eliminating threats silently, and guiding the panicked candidates with quiet authority. She anticipated every danger, corrected every mistake, and neutralized threats before they could fully materialize. Hale's pulse raced. He had trained countless operators, seen elite snipers, and conducted dangerous exercises across the globe. But watching Clarissa Ward, he realized that she transcended every standard he had known. Her skill was instinctive. Her calm under pressure was unnerving. Her precision was surgical. The candidates began to follow her not out of choice but necessity. Her leadership was unspoken yet undeniable. Even in total darkness, with mist curling and shadows shifting, she guided them flawlessly. Finally, the simulated extraction was complete. The dummy safely moved to the designated zone. Every threat had been neutralized. Every candidate had survived, though many were shaken to the core. Clarissa lowered her rifle, gray eyes sweeping the forest one last time. Hale approached, voice low, filled with a mixture of awe and caution. "You are no ordinary candidate." She nodded subtly, expression calm. "Sir, mission complete, all objectives secured." The forest echoed with the tension of what had just occurred. Candidates whispered among themselves, eyes wide, awed, and terrified. They had arrived thinking they would perform, compete, and survive training. Instead, they had witnessed someone operating on a level that defied belief. A quiet girl, slight in build, yet unmatched in skill, calm, and lethal authority. Hale looked at the raven tattoo, black ink stark against her forearm, and felt a chill. That mark wasn't decorative. It was a warning, a testament to her experience, her missions, her past. And now, standing silently in the misty forest, Clarissa Ward had made it abundantly clear. She was not here to compete. She was here to dominate. The candidates, still trembling from the exercise, understood one unspoken truth. The quietest, smallest figure among them carried the deadliest experience, the sharpest instincts, and the calmest control under fire. And Hale realized something else, a terrifying, exhilarating fact. He had no idea what she had already survived or what she was capable of next. The forest seemed to lean closer, shadows stretching, mist swirling. Clarissa Ward, the girl once mocked for a tattoo, had not only survived the day's exercises, she had rewritten the rules. And the question lingered in every mind. What mission had forged her into this? The mist had thickened to a ghostly veil, wrapping around the towering pines like fingers of steel. The candidates were exhausted, their nerves fraying after the morning's range exercises, the simulated ambush, and Clarissa Ward's flawless leadership through the forest. Every sound, the snap of a branch, the scuff of a boot, the whisper of wind, triggered spikes of panic. Yet Clarissa moved through it all with the same lethal calm, gray eyes scanning constantly, fingers steady on her rifle. Hale followed from a ridge, binoculars trained, heart hammering. He had seen seasoned operators falter under far less pressure, yet Clarissa's presence was magnetic and terrifying, a still point in a storm that left everyone else exposed, flustered, and struggling. The training had escalated. A sudden hostile incursion scenario had been triggered, multiple targets moving unpredictably through the thick forest, some with simulated firearms, some using ambush tactics, all designed to overwhelm the candidates. Panic erupted almost immediately. Shouts and gunfire echoed, confusion spreading like wildfire. Clarissa didn't flinch. She crouched low behind a massive fallen log, scanning, calculating. Her breathing was measured, almost hypnotic. She didn't just respond to the chaos, she controlled it. Every movement was deliberate, every shot precise, every decision instantaneous yet flawless. Then came the first real crisis. A candidate, panicked and disoriented, stumbled into the line of a moving target. The Marine froze, eyes wide, rifle misaligned. Clarissa's gray eyes caught the movement instantly. With fluid precision, she pivoted, raised her rifle, and eliminated the target before it could fire. She moved back, guiding the trembling Marine into cover, whispering, "Stay low, keep moving, follow my lead." Hale's pulse raced. Even the best operators sometimes froze in chaotic situations. Clarissa didn't. She dominated. A sudden simulated grenade exploded nearby, shaking the forest floor. Leaves fluttered down, mist curling violently. Most candidates ducked, some screamed, their rifles fumbling in panic. Clarissa remained unshaken. Her eyes darted to every possible threat angle, calculating trajectories, distances, and timing in real time. She moved again, silent, precise, eliminating threats while guiding her group through the chaos. The SEAL candidate who had mocked her days ago whispered, voice trembling, She's not even human. There's no way someone reacts like that." Another Marine muttered, She's insane." Clarissa's hood fell back slightly, revealing the stark black raven tattoo on her forearm. Hale felt a shiver. That mark wasn't decorative. It belonged to one of the most secretive sniper units in the nation, a team whose operatives were trained to survive and dominate in environments that would kill ordinary soldiers. And here she was, a shadow among shadows, teaching everyone else the meaning of true lethal skill. Then the true crisis hit. A simulated enemy squad advanced from an unseen angle, flanking the candidates. The chaos was immediate: shouts, panic, rifles fired without aim. Most candidates were frozen, unsure of how to react. Clarissa's gray eyes flicked to the movement. She didn't hesitate. One smooth motion she fired, eliminating a target before it could even draw a bead. Another target appeared, moving erratically. 2 precise shots later, it was neutralized. The forest seemed to respond to her presence. Leaves rustled unnaturally softly. Shadows shifted. The mist curled around her as if aware of her lethal calm. Candidates followed, not out of training, but instinct, recognizing her authority and trusting her to guide them through what seemed increasingly real. Hale's heart pounded. Every instinct told him that Clarissa Ward wasn't just leading, she was orchestrating the battlefield. Her calm was magnetic, terrifying, and absolute. Suddenly, a candidate slipped, falling into a dense underbrush where visibility was near zero. The simulated enemy was closing fast. Others froze. Time slowed. Clarissa moved instantly. She crouched, dropped low, and sprinted silently through the mist. Her eyes never wavered from the candidate. She reached him, whispered, "Move with me. Don't make a sound," and guided him back to safety, eliminating a moving threat without a single wasted motion. The young Marine stumbled, breathing hard, eyes wide with terror and awe. I can't, how?" Clarissa didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her actions spoke louder than any words. She had saved him while controlling every variable in the chaotic exercise. Hale realized the full magnitude of what he was witnessing. This was no ordinary candidate. Clarissa Ward was not here to learn. She was here to demonstrate, to dominate, to survive, and to teach, whether anyone realized it or not. The ambush intensified. Targets moved unpredictably, flanking from hidden angles, some seemingly impossible to hit. Most candidates panicked, their nerves shredded. Clarissa anticipated every move, neutralizing threats with surgical precision, her body fluid, her mind a deadly machine of calculation and instinct. The mist thickened, making visibility almost impossible. Hale squinted through binoculars, seeing only glimpses of movement. Clarissa, however, moved like a shadow, blending with the mist, stalking threats as if she could see the invisible. Then came the final challenge, the extraction scenario. Candidates were required to carry a simulated high-value target through the forest to a secure location while under continuous simulated fire. Most stumbled immediately, overwhelmed by pressure. Clarissa's eyes scanned the path ahead. She moved first, guiding the candidates, eliminating threats silently, positioning herself to cover every angle. Her gray eyes were calm, commanding, calculating. The forest itself seemed to bend to her presence. Every shadow, every rustle, every twist in the terrain was accounted for. One young Marine, trembling, whispered, "How does she know everything?" Hale's jaw tightened. He couldn't answer. Only Clarissa moved with certainty, calm under fire, lethal and precise, orchestrating a chaos none of the others could comprehend. The extraction point came into view, a small clearing bathed in dim, filtered light. Candidates arrived, exhausted, trembling, hearts racing. Clarissa was the last to move, scanning constantly, ensuring no threat remained. Hale stepped closer, breath catching. The gray eyes that met his were calm, almost unnervingly so. Her hood was partially pulled back, the raven tattoo fully visible, a warning, a marker, a symbol of missions and experiences beyond imagination. "You are unlike anyone I've ever trained," Hale said, voice low, a mix of awe and caution. Clarissa nodded subtly. "Sir, all objectives secured, team is intact." The candidates, still reeling from what they had just witnessed, understood one simple, terrifying truth. The quiet girl with the raven tattoo had not only survived the ambush, she had orchestrated it flawlessly. She was no ordinary candidate. She was lethal, calm, and untouchable. Hale's mind raced. He cataloged what he knew. Her calm under pressure was absolute. She anticipated threats before they emerged. Her precision, and tactical awareness were surgical. The raven tattoo marked her as an elite operative from a secret sniper unit. And most importantly, he realized, he had no idea what she had already endured in her career, nor what she was capable of next. The mist curled through the trees, shadows deepened, and the forest seemed to lean closer, as if aware of the presence of someone extraordinary. Clarissa Ward, the girl once mocked for a tattoo, had not only completed the exercise, she had rewritten the rules, demonstrated leadership, lethal precision, and calm under fire that few could comprehend. And Hale knew, with a mix of fear and admiration, that the final question remained. Who was she really, and what would she do when the real world demanded action? The forest was silent now, but the air hung thick with tension. Mist curled around every tree trunk, and shadows deepened under the late afternoon sun, turning the familiar terrain into a place of uncertainty. The candidates were exhausted, trembling from the day's exercises, each moment saturated with adrenaline and awe. Every rustle, every shift in the leaves, every whisper of wind carried weight, anticipation, and fear. Clarissa Ward moved at the edge of the clearing, hood partially drawn over her head. Her gray eyes scanned the forest with the calm precision that had defined her since morning. Every motion, every breath, every glance radiated lethal authority. Even now, Hale watched, captivated and unnerved. The girl they had mocked days ago had become the undeniable center of attention, untouchable, unstoppable, and utterly composed. The extraction exercise had concluded hours earlier, yet Clarissa remained vigilant. The forest was a chessboard, and she played with pieces only she could see. She crouched behind a fallen log, scanning every angle, every shadow, every movement, her breathing steady. Hale felt a shiver run down his spine. Then came the final, unplanned test. The instructors signaled a live, unannounced simulation of an ambush, designed to push the candidates to their absolute limits. Panic spread immediately. Candidates scrambled, rifles fumbling, voices raised in chaos. Mist and shadow created confusion, and most would have been overwhelmed if not for Clarissa. Her gray eyes flicked to the advancing simulated threats. Calm as a ghost, she adjusted her hood and raised her rifle. One motion, one squeeze of the trigger, and a target dropped. Another moved unexpectedly, attempting to flank. 2 precise shots later, neutralized. Every movement was fluid, silent, deadly. A candidate stumbled, eyes wide, nearly exposed to a hidden threat. Clarissa moved instantly. She was there in a heartbeat, guiding him to cover, whispering, "Stay low, follow me." Her presence was magnetic, her authority unquestioned. Hale's pulse raced. Every experienced operator he had trained had moments of hesitation. Clarissa had none. She anticipated, she calculated, she executed with flawless precision. Then it happened, the moment that would seal her legend in the minds of everyone present. A target moved directly behind her line of fire, closer than anyone had anticipated. A candidate panicked, shouting an incorrect command. The forest erupted in chaos. Clarissa did not hesitate. She pivoted, raised her rifle, and eliminated the target while simultaneously guiding 2 other candidates out of harm's way. Her body moved like liquid, every step calculated, every breath timed, every action efficient. The forest, the mist, the shadows, none of it could touch her. Hale whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "She's unreal, she can't be real." Another candidate, voice trembling, asked, Who is she really?" Clarissa lowered her rifle slightly, gray eyes calm and unreadable. Hale noticed the faint glint of the raven tattoo under the partially rolled sleeve of her uniform, black ink stark against pale skin, almost glowing in the dim light. The insignia wasn't decorative. It belonged to one of the nation's most secretive sniper units, a team whose existence most could only imagine. Hale stepped closer, heart pounding. He had trained elite soldiers, handled dangerous exercises, and conducted real-world missions across the globe, but nothing prepared him for Clarissa Ward. The quiet girl, mocked for a tattoo, hood pulled over her head, was beyond elite. She was lethal, composed, and untouchable. The forest seemed to lean in, as if waiting for what would come next. Clarissa adjusted her hood fully, revealing her face to the team but still keeping the calm aura intact. Hale's eyes were drawn immediately to her gray eyes, sharp, intelligent, fearless, and the raven tattoo, a symbol of death, precision, and secrecy. The candidates, still shaken, instinctively formed a semicircle around her, whispers spreading. She's not just trained. She's survived real missions, one muttered. She's a ghost, another added. Clarissa didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence, her movements, her lethal calm said more than words ever could. Then the unthinkable happened. A final simulated threat moved in from the ridge, a live exercise designed for maximum surprise. Most candidates would have panicked. Clarissa's eyes flicked upward, gray and unblinking. She raised her rifle and fired 3 precise shots, neutralizing the targets before they had time to act. The forest was silent again. Mist swirled, leaves hung motionless in the air, and even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Candidates stared in disbelief, awe, and fear. Hale lowered his binoculars slowly, heart pounding. He realized the full magnitude of what had happened. Clarissa Ward had survived every exercise flawlessly, guided panicked candidates with quiet authority, neutralized every threat with surgical precision, demonstrated instincts, patience, and lethality far beyond any candidate he had ever trained. Hale swallowed hard. He understood now that she wasn't here to compete. She wasn't here to train. She was here to command, dominate, and survive, and everyone else had simply been witnesses. Then came the final reveal. Clarissa, calm as ever, pulled back her hood fully, letting sunlight catch her raven tattoo in stark relief. The candidates gasped. The insignia wasn't decorative. It was a mark of an elite, classified sniper unit known for deadly precision, stealth, and covert missions. Hale stepped forward, voice low, controlled, but tinged with awe and disbelief. "Ward, you're extraordinary. Beyond anything I've ever seen." Her gray eyes met his, calm and unwavering. "Sir, objectives achieved, team secured, threats neutralized." The weight of her words, combined with the truth her presence carried, left the candidates speechless. The quiet girl, once mocked for a tattoo, had now dominated the forest, controlled the chaos, and revealed a skill set none could comprehend. Hale's gaze lingered on the raven tattoo. That mark had survived decades of classified missions, sniper operations, and covert engagements. And now it had arrived here, fully visible, signaling danger, skill, and lethal authority. The mist swirled around her, shadows clinging, the forest silent except for the heavy breathing of candidates. Everyone understood the truth. Clarissa Ward was untouchable, unmatched, and unknowable. Hale exhaled slowly, realizing something profound. The girl in front of him, gray eyes calm, raven tattoo exposed, hood fallen back, was a force beyond ordinary measures. She had rewritten the rules, dominated the chaos, and left every candidate, and Hale himself, stunned, fearful, and in awe. The final thought lingered in the minds of all who had witnessed it. They had been in the presence of someone who could survive anything, lead anyone, and strike with lethal precision when least expected. Clarissa Ward stepped forward, rifle lowered, eyes scanning the forest one last time. Then, with a quiet authority, she turned to Hale. "Sir, the forest is clear, team secured, mission complete." Hale nodded, voice low but reverent. "Ward, you're not just a candidate, you're something else entirely." The mist curled around her as she moved silently through the trees, hood back, raven tattoo fully visible, gray eyes calm, precise, untouchable. The candidates watched speechless. Hale felt a chill as he realized the truth. She was more than elite, she was a force of nature. And as she disappeared into the forest shadows, a single thought remained in Hale's mind, echoing through the mist and the trees. Who was she, really? The forest fell silent once more, but the shadow of Clarissa Ward lingered, leaving awe, fear, and mystery in her wake. The end.